Hello and welcome to the Management Channel and welcome to Operations Management Part 2. We're first going to talk about quality control, and first we want to define that. Quality control is ensuring that all inventory meets certain standards. You inspect to control the quality. Quality assurance is ensuring all inventory has quality built in. You cannot inspect quality into the product or service. It has to be there already. Total quality management is ensuring that everyone in the organization is working to improve quality with the objective of continuous improvement. There are 4 fundamental principles of total quality management. 1. Focus on delivering customer value. 2. Continually improve systems and processes. 3. Focus on managing processes, not people. And 4, use teams to continually improve your processes and your systems to alleviate waste and scrap and insist on nothing but quality for your customer. Six Sigma is a methodology using various quality tools and statistical process control to improve the quality, reduce your defects, lower your costs, and ultimately improve productivity. SPC, or Statistical Process Control, is a method that aids in determining if the process is producing quality within an acceptable standard, and it also assists in controlling quality by keeping it within control limits. The steps are: you set a range that includes the highest and lowest level of acceptable quality, with the desired standard measurement in the middle. You determine the sampling technique and the frequency of how often you're going to measure the performance. You measure that performance and plot it on an SPC chart, which is known as a run chart. And you use the exception principle and do nothing if the performance is within the range. But if it's outside of the range, you're out of control, then you need to take corrective action. A sample chart here is showing that the upper control limit is the top red line, the lower control limit is the lower control line, which means we want the product to measure out somewhere between those standards. The one red dot at the top means it is non-conforming, it is beyond the customer range. Productivity. Productivity is basically the units produced divided by the input used. So it's the ratio of outputs, goods and services, divided by the inputs, resources such as labor and capital. The objective is to improve productivity. Now, important note, production is a measure of output only, but it is not a measure of efficiency. Analysts look to see where they could improve, and some improvements are, for instance, Starbucks stopped requiring signatures on credit card purchases under $25. They saved 8 seconds per transaction. Changed the size of the ice scoop. They saved 14 seconds per drink. And Starbucks put in new espresso machines, which saved 12 seconds per shot. Operations improvements have helped Starbucks increase yearly revenue per outlet by $250,000 to $1 million in 7 years. Their productivity improved by 27%, or about 4.5% per year. One of the key areas that management is evaluated by, again, it is productivity. A method to measure performance of inputs to outputs, or the measure of outputs divided by inputs. To measure productivity, select a base period of time, determine the outputs needed for the time period, determine the cost of the inputs, and divide the number of outputs by the inputs to determine the productivity rate. Is it possible to increase production but decrease productivity? Yes, it is. If you add 3 hours of overtime per day, so regular pay, let's say, is $10, but at overtime times 1.5, it would be $15 an hour. So you're getting the same or less production at greater cost. Less production because they've already worked 8 hours. Now they're going to work 3 more, and they're not apt to be as productive. An example, inputs include labor hours, machine hours, number of workers, cost of labor, and so forth. So for our example, accounting department sends out an additional 850 bills to the customers. However, they had to use 10 hours of overtime to do so. Thus, the same type of work is being done at a higher rate of pay, and it actually decreases the productivity rate. You're increasing output or production by a fourth, but the wages are increased at 1.5 times. So looking at an example, units produced by labor hours used, we have 1,000 units produced divided by 250 hours, 4 units per labor hour. That's single factor productivity. Multi-factor productivity is the output divided by labor, material, energy, capital, and any other miscellaneous costs. This method is also known as the total factor productivity, and the outputs and inputs are often expressed in dollars. So let's take a look at an example. Collins Title Productivity. Their staff of 4 works 8 hours a day, and they produce 8 titles per day. The payroll cost is $640, and the overhead is $400 a day. So the old labor productivity is 8 titles per day divided by 32 labor hours equals 0.25 title per hour, or a fourth of a title an hour. New system produces 14 titles a day. The overhead is $800 a day now, but the new labor productivity shows they're doing 14 titles a day with 32 gives them almost a half a title an hour. Multi-factor, same formula, 8 titles a day, now divided by $640 payroll plus the $400 a day overhead, and it equals to 0.0077 titles per dollar, not even a tenth of a title. The new multi-factor productivity shows 14 titles a day, same labor cost but higher overhead. The new calculation is 0.0097 titles per dollar. So you can see there's an increase. Productivity increases are dependent on 3 variables. Labor, which contributes about 10% of the annual increase. Capital, which contributes about 38% annually. And management, which contributes about 52% annually. The service world also calculates productivity, but it's difficult to improve because it's usually labor intensive, usually focused on unique individual attributes or requirements, often an intellectual task performed by professionals, so therefore it's kind of difficult to mechanize or automate. It's difficult to evaluate or measure for quality. There are ways to increase productivity. You can increase the value of the outputs while keeping the inputs the same. You can maintain the value of the outputs but decrease the value of the inputs. Or you can increase the value of the outputs but decrease the value of inputs. Performance management process is pretty simple. It's a system where all things the supervisor must do to enable an employee to achieve prescribed objectives, like setting the stage for employee success, providing feedback and controls, monitoring their performance regularly, of course, providing support, guidance, and direction as needed. A system of performance management pretty much looks like this, and I'm not going to read all this to you. I'm going to leave the chart up there for a few moments. Please feel free to pause if you need further time. And again, you can see the main functions of management: planning, organizing, staffing, leading, and controlling. So, one thing that should be done is an employee performance appraisal. After all, how are your employees going to know if they're doing the job that you're expecting of them? It's a systematic assessment of how well an employee is performing a job and then communication of that assessment to the employee. It includes comparing the employee's performance with some established performance standards. Giving regular feedback improves current performance and provides the recognition that motivates sustained or greater performance. Effective supervisors provide subordinates with day-to-day feedback on their performance. The effective supervisor also avoids comments by providing regular positive feedback. I wish my supervisor would tell me how I'm doing once in a while. Well, my supervisor never tells me when I'm doing a job, but if I make a mistake, I sure hear about it. So, in other words, don't just tell them when they're doing something wrong. Tell them when they're doing things right and how you appreciate it. A performance appraisal is a supervisor's responsibility, and they should be done by the immediate supervisor who's in the best position to observe and judge how the employee is performing on the job. However, supervisors do have to be trained how to use the appraisal form. Consensus or pooled appraisals by a group of supervisors may be required if the employee works for more than one supervisor. Peer evaluations is another way of doing a performance appraisal. It's done by other folks within the realm of equal rank. Must have safeguards built in, however, to ensure the peers are basing their evaluations on performance standards and factors, not bias, prejudice, or any personality conflict. 360-degree evaluations are used, and it's an appraisal based on data collected from all around the employee, from the customers, from the vendors, from the supervisors, their peers, any subordinates they may have, or anyone else that is pertinent. It gives employees a broader perspective of what they do well and where they need to improve. But not only that, they also get a chance to see how others see them. Self-evaluations are ratings that are done by the subordinate themselves, and then they're compared with the supervisor's rating, and then any differences noted can be used by the supervisor to discuss performance specifics in the appraisal meeting. The advantages of a formal appraisal system is they answer questions like, who should be promoted to department supervisor when the incumbent retires? Who should get merit raises this year? What should be the raise differential between employees? Who, if anyone, needs training? And if so, what training do they need? This behavior has happened before. Does the employee need additional counseling, or is the behavior serious enough for disciplinary action? An employee is appealing her termination. Do we have adequate documentation? And I'm going to remind you here, document everything. Document verbal warnings, written warnings. That way you're like a lawyer. You're building a case if needed. All right. Written appraisal forms facilitate the appraisal process much more easier and makes the process standard or uniform. Usually the form is prepared by Human Resources Department with input from both supervisors and employees. And it includes descriptions of job-related factors that enable the supervisor to make an objective performance evaluation rather than personality judgments. It also provides space for additional comments about any of the various aspects of the employee's performance. Factors in measuring employees' performance are many. You want to know, how is their job knowledge? What's the timeliness of their output? Are there positive and negative effects of effort? Do they give suggestions and generate ideas? Are they dependable? Or do they come into work late a lot? Are they safety conscious? How much supervision is required? Are they self-driving? What's their aptitude? How cooperative are they in dealing with you and with others? What's their adaptability to change in new positions? What is their ability to work with others? What is their ability to learn? What is the quantity and quality of their work? What is the effective use of their resources? How is their customer service orientation? How good is their judgment? And what is their appearance? Do they look like they care to be at work? The whole process starts with the performance appraisal form. And the problem with appraisal forms are the person rating sometimes doesn't quite agree on the items or the terms. The rater severity error in underrating employees. The rating of leniency in overrating employees. And then we have what's called the halo and the horn effects. Pretty much whether you like them or you don't like them. Performance standards need to be measured properly. Are the job-related requirements by which the employee's performance is being evaluated? Or is it more their personality? The performance standards should be described in terms of how much, how well, when, and in what manner. When conducting the appraisal meeting, praising good performance and supportively discussing needed improvements in behavior and performance. They may be doing a great job. Maybe there's nothing there you need to cover. But if there is something that you need improvement, remember to use the sandwich technique. Start off with positive comments. Inject the situation or behavior you want to correct, and then finish on positive comments. It makes the employee feel much more at ease, and it isn't all negative. Make sure you choose the right time and place. Privacy and confidentiality of the appraisal meeting should be ensured because discussion could include criticism, personal feelings, and opinions. So don't do it in an office with a bunch of other people around. The appointments for appraisal meetings should be scheduled in advance so the employee is aware and can prepare. The appraisal form should be reviewed again before the meeting for objectivity and accuracy. Conducting the meeting, you want to state the appraisal purpose of the meeting, review and recognize the employee's achievements before proceeding to areas that you feel they need improvement in. Again, the sandwich technique. Get the employee to agree on the areas that they need to correct or improve, and use a problem-solving approach to jointly create an action plan to help improve the performance wanted. Limit your criticism, but clearly explain when deficiencies are serious or improvement has to be made. And above all, give the employee the opportunity to ask questions or to defend himself. Here you can see some different responses a supervisor might encounter during the appraisal meeting. For instance, "You hired me, so how could I be so bad?" Or, "This evaluation is just not fair." Look through these for a moment because these are typical answers that we've collected. I'll leave it for you, and if you need to pause, please feel free to do so. All right, moving on. The meeting. Closing that appraisal meeting, make sure the employee clearly understands their performance rating. Get an agreement on any mutual goals in areas which you both feel the employee needs improvement. Set a date with the employee to discuss progress toward the new goals. Ask the employee to sign the performance appraisal form. And just because they don't sign it doesn't mean they agree or disagree. Nor does signing it mean they agree. Indicate continued support for the employee. Benefits of promoting from within provides a steady source of trained personnel for higher positions. It provides candidates with known performance. And it motivates employees when they can see there's a link between excellent performance and promotion and the work that they do. Modifying a promotion from within policy. When no suitable internal candidates are available, then maybe you have to go outside. When extensive training is required and the position has to be filled quickly, again, you may have to go externally. There's criteria for promoting from within. In most cases, it's seniority. And unfortunately, in union shops, it is seniority. And I say unfortunately because the person who's been there longer may not be the best person for the job, may not be a good worker, may not be a better productivity person, but they've been there longer, so they get the promotion. In my opinion, I think this is unfair. Promoting from within by seniority rewards employee loyalty and commitment. It reduces favoritism and discrimination. It discourages young employees, though, with less seniority. And again, like I said, they may get promoted regardless of their performance. Merit is the best way. The quality of an employee's job performance. I don't care if they've been there 3 months or 3 years. Their ability also counts. Their potential to perform higher level tasks should make a big difference in whether you promote or not. Compensation program objectives are to eliminate pay inequities, to minimize dissatisfaction and complaints among the employees. You also want to establish and maintain attractive pay rates so qualified employees are attracted and want to retain. You also look at to conduct periodic employee merit ratings to provide the basis for comparative performance rewards. And another aspect is to control labor costs with respect to productivity gains. We want to reward employees for outstanding performance or the acquisition of a new skill or knowledge that makes them more valuable to the company. Piecework. Some companies pay by piecework. It's a system in which the employee earns a certain amount of pay for each piece they produce. But the problem is, are they quality pieces or are they just a lot of volume that could have defects? Pay for performance. Compensation other than base wages that is given for achieving employee or corporate goals. How about gain sharing plans? It's a group incentive plan that have employees share in the benefits from the improved performance or the improved productivity gain. Skill-based pay is a system that rewards employees for acquiring new skills and new knowledge. Suggestion plans are one way to solicit employee ideas. Typically, employees are paid based on the value of their suggestions, but it may fail if they are evaluated on savings alone. Incentive plan problems. No real incentive plan is immune from some kind of charge of inequality or inequity. The input from primary stakeholders before implementing the program will help to identify the right things to measure. But for an incentive plan to succeed, management has to clearly define what they want to reward. Team-based incentive plans are not without their problems either. Supervisors must fully comprehend the plan and be able to answer employee questions. Supplementary benefits such as vacation with pay, holidays, retirement plans, insurance, health insurance programs or health programs, tuition aid, employee-assisted programs, and a lot of other services are also a benefit in performance appraisal. Supervisors have little involvement in establishing the benefits, but they are obligated to see that the departmental employees understand how the benefits work and how each employee could receive an equitable share. When employees have questions about the benefits, supervisors should consult with human resources staff or higher level managers unless they know for sure. Employees are commonly comparing their compensation to that of others. It becomes a motivational problem when the organization has wages or benefits that are lower than those of similar jobs at other firms. Two-tier wage systems and contract employees are additional concerns for supervisors in trying to maintain a perception of fairness. A temporary employee could be paid more than a regular employee doing the same job. Is that fair? Not really. Thank you for watching part 2 of operational planning and operational management, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please have a wonderful day.